Two women set out on a mystical quest.
Sarah!
Yeah! To get trashed.
Wanna go to a party tonight?
Oh my god, totally!
Yeah!
So yes, Adult Swim has a brand new show coming up, and it is called Yolo, Crystal Adventures, I believe. Is that correct? I think I almost got
enough.
it. All right, that's perfectly good. We're off to a great start, by the way. And yes, I am here with the show creator, by the way. So, Michael, can you start things off and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Michael Cusack. I'm from Australia, and yeah, I'm an animator here and slash writer slash nobody, loser. And for some reason, Adult Swim has been kind enough to let me do whatever I want with this show called Yolo. So I'm very happy to be here, very happy to be talking adult animation.
All right, that's nice. Now, what's very interesting about you is that you actually started out working just on the internet, just producing cartoons on YouTube, and then slowly but surely you grew to the point where now you are running your own series on Adult Swim. Can you tell us a bit about your journey from starting out with making videos on YouTube, doing little animations there, up to the point where you are now, where now you're collaborating on Adult Swim, making full-on TV shows?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, like you say, like a lot of other animators, I just started online on YouTube and learned really just from tutorials and things like that online. So I never went to an animation school or anything. So it was all just trial and error and experimentation. And yeah, it was a slow build up of just doing videos for YouTube and online, and they'd get a little bit of success, and I'd try to hone the craft, I guess, or get better. And yeah, after a while, you kind of network with people, you meet new people in the animation industry, and it gets you into doors and everything. Like, for instance, I was lucky enough to do a Rick and Morty parody called Bushworld Adventures, and that was a huge kind of boost to my career, and I was taken a little bit more seriously when it comes to TV. So really, it's just sticking to it for long enough, you get these opportunities thrown at you. And I think a lot of the reason this show got made was just exploiting the novelty of it being Australian, and also it was done for very cheap. It was much cheaper than a regular Adult Swim show. So, if you make those little compromises, I guess you can get stuff done. So yeah, it's just been sticking at it for all these years, I guess, is what gets you to where you are.
Oh, that's very nice, actually. And speaking of which, considering that now you are working on Adult Swim and you do have the experiences of working both for television and also working online, can you define, like, in your personal experience, what would you say is the biggest difference between making cartoons online, like just posting them on YouTube, and making cartoons for a big channel like Adult Swim?
That's a good question. So the difference between, that's something I wrangle with a lot where it comes to making something for TV and versus the internet. There's definitely, obviously, a lot more freedom when it comes to making online content. You've got no one to really answer to but yourself. You can pretty much do anything, really, as long as there's an audience for it. But TV, you're kind of relegated to going through a few check marks when it comes to, development, people at the network, legal, all that kind of stuff. And what I found is not only that, but also just your own psyche. You're very aware that you're making stuff for TV. So there's a little bit of you that holds back, and you're not as, well, at least for me, I find I kind of, I wouldn't say water down my stuff, but I'm definitely aware that I can't get away with some stuff that I could online. So there's always that to wrestle with. But Zach Hadel and I co-created a pilot called Smiling Friends, and we always say that that's like the funnest part in a way. If you can wrangle it and use it to your advantage, it can be the funnest part to navigate things like network notes or just the stuff that you probably couldn't get away with on TV. So, yeah, it's a balancing act, really.
So I guess, like, even with the additional challenges of getting network notes, like, it kind of adds into the fun as well, because, like, you're giving challenges and extra obstacles to know how to solve in a way.
Yeah, sure. And it's because, like, I'm a big TV nerd. I grew up loving people like Trey Parker and Matt Stone and all that stuff, like The Simpsons, Futurama, and I'd always, like, listen to the commentaries on those shows and read up about them and the behind the scenes. And I always enjoyed I thought it sounded fun going back and forth with a network when it comes to what you can and can't do. I always found hearing that and reading about that, it sounded really fun to do, as opposed to the internet where, yes, you've got full freedom and control, but it just feels like it's a bit too easy, if that makes sense. Like, if you can, I guess, go back and forth with a network and it's like hell, even though it wasn't for Adult Swim, but in theory, if it's like hell to get something, you really want to do something, they're like, no, you can't do that. You're like, oh, well, can I do this instead? Like, a good example is with South Park, with that Tom Cruise episode, I think, like, it was something like Trey and Matt couldn't say Tom Cruise was gay, so instead they just said, like, oh, I'm in the closet, you know, like, he was like, I'm trapped in the closet. Sorry, I'm getting this so muddled up. But basically, they got away with doing a joke, but just like skirting around it, and it made it funnier anyway.
Honestly, I thought you were referring to something related to Scientology, because I remember there were some controversies with South Park related to Scientology, especially when the original voice of Chef was a Scientologist himself. So I thought you would mean like wrestling with the networks related to some kind of Tom Cruise joke with Scientology. So,
well, I think probably, I mean, it always, what I've learned is it always depends on the climate. So the things you wouldn't be able to get away with now on TV, you probably would have been able to get away with them 10 years ago, and you'll probably be able to get away with them in 10 years' time too. So it's just cycles, really, and you've just got to be aware of that.
Yeah, that is true. You do have a point. Now, let's actually get onto the actual show itself that you are working on, Yolo. And it is actually very curious because this actually did start out as one of your projects, one of your little videos several years ago. And what I would like to know is, among all the projects that you have done in the past, why did you pick Yolo specifically to turn into this major animated series?
Okay, so that's a good question too. So the girls, Rachel and Sarah being the lead characters, that decision was made because Mike Lazo and Adult Swim, the reason that Yolo actually existed is just because they saw Bushwater Adventures, the Rick and Morty parody I did, and they said, oh, we'd love to see more episodes like this. Like, you did it really cheap, so it's like any network's gonna like a show that can be done on the cheap. But the only issue was, well, you can't really do it with the Rick and Morty characters. Like, it'd be more interesting if you could kind of develop that into keeping the same vibe of Bushwater Adventures, but in a more original way with original characters. And it was lucky for me because I already had the Yolo girls from 10 years ago from my short on YouTube called Yolo. And I found that they had a little bit of a similar dynamic when it comes to Rick being the more dominant character and Morty is the more submissive. It was the same with me. I had like a more dominant character, Rachel, and a bit more of a submissive character, Sarah. And I just thought it was interesting having the two female Australian characters, like the Clubber girls that you'd see a lot in Australia, like contrast with a lot of like rough-looking Australian characters, like masculine dudes that like with guns, like you see in episode 1, and like weird like alien, stupid like characters that I draw. Just seeing them contrast with these two female leads for some reason made sense aesthetically in my mind. So yeah, it seemed to happen pretty naturally.
Mm-hmm. And with a lot of the shows that you've done, and like especially with a lot of the work that you've done, you really do emphasize the Australia aspect, especially the fact that it is where you're from. And what I would like to know, especially coming from Yolo, how much Australia is there, or is it like is it really an essential theme to Yolo?
I'd say more in the case of Yolo. as opposed to other stuff I've done, it's a little bit more just like a surreal parody of Australia rather than a very realistic adaptation of Australia. So there's some name references in the show, and there's some things that might seem a little bit Australian, but it's like 90% surreal and fantasy, which is something I've always wanted to do. It's something that we struggle here in Australia. If something set here in Australia, like a show on Australian network TV, it's got to be very like, no, it's got to exactly how it is in real life here. It's like we're focused very much on the bland, which is funny because I am too. I love the bland stuff, but I don't think they do it well anyway. But I love mixing it with fantasy and surreal stuff. So yeah, it's kind of like a stupid mix. It's Australia. It's Australia on drugs, man. no, it's Alice in Wonderland, Australia. That's how I'd put it.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense. And now that you have made it to Adult Swim and you are starting to make your own actual TV shows, what I would like to know is, are there going to be more of your works that you have done in the past that you're actually going to consider to make a TV show? Like, are we ever going to see a Damo and Darren TV series?
Maybe, yeah. It's I love doing this stuff. I've always, my whole dream in life was to get all these ridiculous, stupid Australian characters in a TV show at some point. So, yeah, there's always little things in the works, and sometimes they blow up and become something. Like, for instance, I had no idea. Yolo just came out of nowhere, really, just from the Bushworld sketch. So, yeah, I'd love to do all that stuff. I'm in it for the long run, so I'm sure I'll get around to those characters too.
Sounds good. Or maybe like consider one day, like if the show really does blow up, like have a bit of a crossover where you would have like Demo and Darren and Yolo probably.
Yeah, it really depends on on it's like the DC Marvel thing, right? Like I've got some issues where like Warner Brothers owns Yolo, and for things like Demo and Darren, I could be going to a different networks. I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'd love to do crossovers like that. Yeah, it's up to the big wigs.
Good point. And there is something that you did bring up earlier that I also would really like to know, and many people probably would really like to know, and it's actually regarding Smiling Friends, since you mentioned earlier that you have collaborated with Zach Haddell on the series, and earlier this year, it did actually made quite an impact on the internet. And what I want to know is, do you have any updates regarding what is happening with Smiling Friends? Do you know if there's anything new that is happening, if Adult Swim is doing something like even more with the pilot, or is there anything that you would be legally allowed to say?
Well, when it comes to Smiling Friends, what I will say is Zach and I, we work all the time, we talk all the time, we've always come up with ideas for stuff. We're very happy that Smiling Friends had the success it had. Adult Swim's very aware of that success, and we're just trying to figure it all out. But I think people will be pretty happy to know that Zach and I are working a lot together.
That's good.
But I mean, that might not mean what they want. I think it will all be fine. It will all be good. We've got a very good relationship, a writing relationship, and we love to work together.
Yeah, at the very least, even if your future project isn't Smiling Friends, at least we know that the combination of you two works very well. So, with or without Smiling Friends, at least the fact that you two are working together is a good sign of something.
That's the main point I'd love to convey to your beautiful audience today, that we're definitely working together.
Yes, that is good. And I do have one more question I would like to ask you. And considering that you have found some great success, and like your story honestly is pretty inspiring, how you started pretty small, starting out just making little videos on YouTube and around the internet, and then you're now grown to the point where you have an Adult Swim show. And I would like to know is, do you have any advice for the audience about anything regarding about following a similar path as you? Like, do you have any advice about how to like pursue your path to become someone who can probably reach to your level?
I would say to them that I was exactly the same. Someone like Zach Hadel was exactly the same. You know, a lot of the people we talked to were exactly the same in the sense that we grew up as total nerds, loving to look at people like Edgar Wright. At least me. Like I don't want to speak for Zach right now, but I love people like Edgar Wright, Peter Jackson, Sam Raimi, all these people that were filmmakers that started from an early age, just saved up money, stuck to it. You know, even if it's filmmaking or animation, it doesn't really matter. The same principle applies. If you just stick to it and dedicate a lot of time to this, good things will happen. And there will be a lot of failures, a lot of times where you think that you're not cut out for it, or you're just, it's not meant to be. But I tell you what, if you just stick to it, really, good things will happen. No matter what. It's just like a statistics game, really. If you just stick to this, and while everyone's dropping out, or the challenges kind of the challenge becomes easier, then it's all just going to become easier. So, and when animation, I'd just say obviously draw a lot. Try to learn Adobe Flash or Toon Boom, just the basics. There's a lot of YouTube tutorials to learn from. So yeah, all the content to learn from is out there on the internet. It's just up to you to really make that decision to go for it, as cheesy as that sounds.
It's cheesy, but sometimes it is actually pretty true. So
yeah, you've got to be cheesy to convey the truth. You can
Exactly.
do it, guys. I believe in you.
Hey, I mean, some of the most inspirational speeches are like cheesy as all hell. But Michael, I just want to say thank you so much for this interview. This really was a lot of fun and very insightful as well. And this does make me pretty excited for what the future holds for you, and also pretty excited for Yolo as well.
No worries. Thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, and as for you people, don't forget to go and check out Yolo. It is coming to Adult Swim, and if you want to see some crazy Australian adventures, then you know that Yolo is for you.
YOLO Crystal Fantasy. Premieres August 9th at midnight.
Look at this photo I got with Madison.
You look so hot. On Adult Swim.
Thanks.